My name is Andrew Hickman. I'm from Prospect Park, New Jersey, and I'm 35 years old. So growing up in Prospect Park, New Jersey, which is a very small town in Jersey, close to New York City. I mean, I lived the typical, boy lifestyle, man. I played sports, went to a small school that was in the town I lived in. I had my father as my coach. I was very active in both golf and wrestling. I tended to focus more on sports than I did academics, but I always considered myself an athlete. When I started talking to an Army recruiter, it was right around my senior year in high school, because I always had this idea that I wanted to be in the military. I just never voiced it. I had an uncle that was in the Army, and it intrigued me watching him go off to all these different countries and serve our country. And a recruiter came to my house, and we sat down and kind of talked about, the steps of, what direction I wanted to go in the Army, whether that was going to be infantry or be a medic or artillery. And I just kind of figured out what would be the best fit for me. During the process with my recruiter, they had to bring me to MEPS, and 18 years old, I'm not sure what to really expect. So when I got to MEPS, there was a bunch of people there basically doing the exact same thing. When I first joined, my basic training was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because I joined as a 13 Bravo artilleryman, and that was an OSIT. So basically what it is AIT is joined in with the basic training. So you don't actually leave to go to do your job or train for your job. You're there with the drill sergeants the entire time, because they are the ones who are teaching you your job. Once I got done with all that, I ended up going to airborne school, which is at Fort Benning, Georgia. It was a 3-week course. And once again, 18 years old, not knowing what I was getting into. So, the third week of jump school, here it is, we're up in a plane getting ready to jump out. And I'm like, man, what did I get myself into? But, every jump I've ever been on, I've always been nervous, and it's good because, it keeps you alert, it keeps you alive. So I got through jump school, and next thing you know, off to Fort Bragg, where I was with the 18th Airborne Corps for the entire first term of my enlistment. My first deployment with the 18th Airborne Corps was to Mosul, Iraq. We were there for a year, but we weren't doing artillery stuff. We were there more as a convoy escort for fuel and food to be distributed through different military bases that were in Iraq, and that's what we did the whole time we were there. So after my first deployment with the 18th Airborne Corps, I was on my way of getting out. I had maybe a month left, and I figured, I did my time. The years I served were served well, and I wanted to start a family and just see what was outside the Army. When I got out of the Army, I expected it to be a little different. I did struggle. I couldn't find my place. I worked for a pool company. I worked for a construction company. I worked at a restaurant. I did all these little jobs, and the thing that hurt was I didn't have the benefits that I was used to having. I didn't have the steady paycheck that I was so used to having. And I started really regretting the decision of getting out instead of using that time in the Army and making my way through the ranks. But I chose to get out and see what happens. So after going through the struggles of not figuring out what I could actually do outside the Army, I had made the decision of going back in. It's something that I talked about with my parents, which they were very unclear about because they were nervous. They were nervous because I survived a deployment and I came home, and they were afraid that was going to happen again. But with everything that was going on in my life, the Army was constantly there. It was pulling me back in. I knew I was a good soldier. I'd gotten out as an E5, and I was just ready to continue that career. And before you know it, I was looking back about where I was and how I was already in a plane getting ready to jump out of a plane again with the 82nd Airborne. It wasn't too much longer that we ended up getting deployed to Haiti to help out with the earthquake that happened there. Our job was to provide security for the contractors that were doing the work to help rebuild and get a lot of the buildings and scraps and everything out of the way. We were also security for the triage at one of the hospitals there, and we provided security for the food distribution for some of the Haitians that were in dire need of help. And as soon as we got back from Haiti, it wasn't long before our next deployment to Baghdad, Iraq happened, and we were there for close to a year, not just a year, but under a year. And I was with the 82nd Airborne the whole time there. And I mean, going back from where I was, I mean, it felt like I should be here. I was serving my country, and this is what I wanted to do, and I don't regret ever making the choice to have to go back into the Army. Now, with me getting out the second time, I was a little bit more prepared. I actually paid attention during the classes that they gave us on how to write a resume, who to look up on the internet, like what VA reps I should be signing up for and what I should do. Because during the first time I got out, I didn't even think about using my GI Bill. And after my second term in, and I ended up getting out, I ended up using my GI Bill to go to cosmetology school. And by using the GI Bill, I mean, it is stress-free. You don't have to worry about money. Like, they pay for the entire school for me to go there. I went to school for about 12 months, and they also gave me BAH, which is basic allowance for housing. So that way I don't have to hold down a job while going to school. They gave me enough money to, pay for my bills while going to school. I watched a lot of kids who were just out of high school trying to go to cosmetology school and hold down a job at the same time. And I'm like, man, I'm glad that's not me, because I served and I was granted this GI Bill. I deserved it, and it paid for everything, and it made it so much easier for me to still take care of my family and go to school stress-free. So now, working for Arrow as a barber, being put in a leadership role in the Army for as long as I've been, I just feel like it comes naturally to me to just want to kind of like step up and kind of help people that might be struggling, just to make it easier for them, because I like getting here really early before everyone else and setting everything up. I like my stuff to be in order, because the Army taught me, like, dress right, dress. If you know where everything is, you're not going to be struggling looking for it later. You know where everything is, you set it up the way you want, which is what the military taught me. Some of the things I've taken away from the Army is definitely, I would have to say, discipline. I remember, 18 years old, you're carefree. You have to give respect to receive respect, regardless of the person. Doesn't matter their age, their gender, it doesn't matter. The Army taught me that, and that's what I did. I still remember when I got out the first time how much I've changed from high school to where I was, how I treated my parents differently. The Army changed me into a better person. For anyone out there who's struggling on what to do, I'm not forcing you to join the Army, but I mean, the Army has great benefits. I didn't take into account for it until I was actually out of the Army. I didn't realize all these things until I was out of the Army, because you're very cozy once you're in. You have that security blanket, you got that paycheck, you got the benefits. You're not seeing bills through medically. Like, if you have something wrong with your teeth, bam, you go, they'll fix it, you don't see a bill. You're getting shots that you might need because you're sick, or you could see a doctor whenever you want. You don't have to worry about that stuff. So I mean, it's something to think about, because you don't have to be in the Army forever. Whether you choose to do 20 years or 4 years, you're still going to receive the benefits. And if you get out and you use your GI Bill, I mean, you're going to be more successful than a lot of kids coming out of high school. If I go back and tell myself that, hey, the Army is about to open up the door for you, man. You're about to get the best training and knowledge, and it's all for free. They're paying you to get this training. They're paying you to be a better person. No one's there to see you fail. Everyone there wants to see you succeed. And I mean, I'm living proof of it. I've been up and down and all around, and here I am. I'm killing it at the barber shop, and never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd be a barber. But here I am. I had, 14 years in the Army, and I'm cutting hair, and I'm loving it, man. I'm loving life, and things are looking good.